Hello, my name is Ray Gehring, and I'm a guitarist here in Brooklyn, New York. You can tell this video won't be very long because of the amount of iced coffee I have left, so I'm an addict for iced coffee. As a teacher of guitar, I'm repeating so many of the lessons that I learned when I began because they just apply to everybody. It is my goal to make lessons as intuitive and as easy to see as I can. When I first began music school, my knowledge was really limited, so I had to up my game within a few weeks. So there were tricks and things that I discovered that made the whole process easy. What I want to know from you all is what are the things that you've seen on the guitar that are so obvious and so simple to think about that you wouldn't need a guitar lesson to teach you that? What are the little things that you've done around the fretboard that you were just curious about, that you wanted to hear what it sounded like? So here are 5 examples of what I think every guitarist should not be shown, that should just come instinctively and without much thought. So for example, no one had to show me to take the E chord and just move it around. And then I would hear immediately, wow, that sounds like this song, or oh, that's the same thing they did in this song. I can move the shape anywhere I want to. The very first one I saw was this. And when the first time I played that for a friend, he was immediately like, wow, that's really cool. How did you learn that? And I said, I just took the E major chord and just moved it around and thought, what does it sound like here? What does it sound like here? How many of you did that automatically just out of curiosity? The next chord would be the D major. I immediately, once knowing this and was comfortable with it, moved it around. And once again, of course, that sounds like thousands of different songs or other things guitarists have played. Move the shapes around to areas where you have no idea what it's going to sound like and give it a try. As you get better and better, you'll realize that these are just inversions of other chords, but your fingers have them down already because you were curious enough to give this a try. And not every one of these are going to sound good. C chord, same thing. I immediately move these chords around. And then I quickly noticed some just clearly didn't work. But that's up to your ear, whether it works or not. I mean, any one of these chords could be explained theoretically, but there's where theory gets in the way. You may learn this chord based upon some theoretical concept, but when and where would you use it? That's up to you. Beginning students miss the C chord quite a bit. They end up putting their fingers all in a row instead of skipping a string here and playing the C. I'll hear this, and I'll stop them every time and say, that is a chord. Remember that chord. It's a fun chord. Move it around. If you move it around by 2 frets, it stays as something called augmented. Be curious. What if I add a finger here? What if I take a finger off? What is that going to give me? An A major chord becomes an A sus or A2 without thinking about it. D chord, again, I naturally went like this. Then I would do the same thing, move it up somewhere. I would just explore. I would throw fingers around to see what happens. Same thing with D. Pinky doesn't want to reach too far, but it can. And with any chord, I would ask myself, what does it sound like if I put this down? Or I've got this finger free, it can move around, so let me give it a try. You know, just playing that reminds you of a million songs. Another thing, if I'm playing the D chord, I would hit the area where the D chord is up here after the 12th fret, and I would say, what does that sound like? I found it just because I was curious. Stay curious. Look for things that you have no business playing. If you move things around, you will find plenty of great ideas. Take a power chord, leave all the other strings open. So I'm just playing the B and the F sharp. Everything else is open. The other thing nobody had to show me was hammer-ons and pull-offs. I saw a guitarist just had his first finger on the G sharp for the E major and was doing this at the start of a song. And so I just tried that. I don't use a pick, but let me give you an example. I didn't have to learn to turn the pick around. I would try every side of the pick. I would even try the flat side of the pick, and that's where this comes from. So I would try all sorts of things. Another thing is putting your fingers down and seeing how far you can stretch them. You don't have to play the note. Just move them around and see how far they will go. Say, what if I put my finger here, and this finger here? I would do that all the time. And I'm going to guess 75% of you have sat around and thought, what if? What if? These aren't things that just advanced players need to think about. Every beginner should be thinking about. At some point, you're going to have some uncomfortable stretches, and that's just the way that it is. And lastly, the other one was bending. You know, I'd see people do that all the time. So I'd experiment with, what does it sound like if I bend it up to this note? And then I would check it to make sure I got close. Then I thought, what if I bend it just one fret? I forgot what show it was, but I saw Steve Lukather in Toto doing this. He would bend up to the E in this particular case, and he would add his pinky. Huge results come from being curious and trying things that you have no idea what you're doing. And if it sounds good, chances are you'll remember where it was. Always use the inlays if you need those to help you remember where things are. Spend 5 to 10 minutes a week, not every practice session, to explore, to go where no guitarist has gone before. Thank you so much for joining me on this video. This is probably one of the most important videos I can make because I'm seeing students over the last few years not exploring, waiting for somebody to tell them, oh, I didn't know that I could move this chord around. But we need to be curious enough to do the things. We need to be curious enough to do the things that will bring us other things, that let us explore this whole fretboard. You paid for the fretboard, you might as well use all the real estate given to you. Thank you so much for tuning in this channel, racing towards 1,000 subscribers, where I'll be giving away, again, a Mythos Mjolnir, as well as 3 other pedals. And then shortly after that, I will be giving away a Squier Telecaster that was donated to me to give away. So, be safe, be healthy, and I will see you on the next video. Thank you so much for tuning in.